Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's July 16th, 2018, and we're in the middle of a heat wave going on right now and a drought. And so I thought I'd take a break this afternoon and come out here, sit underneath the maple tree, and try and do at least a few, respond to a few of the comments and questions in another episode of Ask Me Anything. So, and I'm going from the most recent one, so I'm going to try and do a couple of these sit downs so I don't really take a real long time going through the comments and questions. So today, one of the latest video I had posted was the hilling potatoes, and Kate Cortez made a comment. She's real thankful that she found the channel. She has a bed that she wants to plant a garden in the next year or two, where the soil is really lacking nutrients. Probably, I'm presuming there's a lot of weeds in there, or it may be very, very sparse. We have just covered it with cardboard and have a tree company coming to deliver some wood chips to cover the cardboard. I live in Central Florida, so we get lots of high temps and almost daily rain. I'll keep you posted on how long it takes for the material to break down. I'm originally from New York, so love watching your videos to remind me of home. Well, thanks so much, Kate. I really appreciate your comment. I do have a couple of suggestions. Now, most of the places that I've been to in Florida are really sandy material, which really doesn't hold a lot of moisture very well. So although you're getting the rain every day, the moisture tends to drain out. I would, maybe invest in a moisture meter to test the area where you're going. Make little holes in the cardboard, stick the moisture meter down there to see how well the moisture is retained in that soil. Now up here, the videos you see that I create, I'm creating permanent raised beds. But in a desert environment, a real sandy desert environment, I'd probably have my beds sunken to help with decreasing evaporation as well, and to help the roots to get to moisture. So I would just take a look and pay close attention to how long the moisture is retaining there. I think it's great that you live in an area where there's almost daily rain. And sometimes when we have lots of rain, we can actually wash out some of the nutrients from the soil as well. So you mentioned depleted nutrients, so I would, besides getting the wood chips, which are a great carbon source, now if you get the wood chips that has lots of green on it right now, in other words, really small twigs and branches and lots of green leaves, and they're just the tree company's taking down not dead wood, but live wood, then that's going to be loaded with more nutrients. Other things that I don't know in Florida, if you live in an area where there's many deciduous trees, and in the fall when the leaves come down, that's another thing. And I really would encourage you to find resources and using your own kitchen scraps, especially the produce, the vegetables and fruits, getting those materials, incorporating them underneath the cardboard. And so before getting the wood chips completely covering it up, I'd figure out a way of being able to sequester some of these regular table scraps and put them underneath the cardboard, if that's at all possible. Trying to think about how you can do it, and you can rotate around. So we want to encourage have the food sources there for the microbial organisms to consume, and to be able to mine the minerals from the sand that's there as well. And sometimes using more water retentive resources. Certainly the wood chips will break down over time, the cardboard will break down over time. But it really depends on the area, how quickly. Like up here, you lay down some cardboard, as soon as, even in a drought, there will be worms that come right up to the surface, right up underneath the cardboard, and it breaks down pretty quickly. And in the areas where, if you've seen the hugelkultur pits video, and recently I did one with on the showing the mini excavator and the gravel that our whole food forest area was like, that's all gradually transitioned over several years to be able to build good soil. But I brought in lots of materials. There may be coffee shops around you where you are, where you can get coffee grounds. You may have friends or family that may be able to help you get kitchen scraps and all to help feed the system. I just look around and try to find whatever resources. Hopefully your bed isn't so big that it's daunting to take on that responsibility, but I applaud your effort to take control. Food sovereignty is probably one of the most important things that we all should be taking very seriously as well. So thanks so much for your comment, Kate. I appreciate it. Jan Coldwater commented, love what you and your wife are doing there. Love your land. My hubby and I are looking forward to getting land. Can't wait. Best wishes. Go for it. Do what you can do to get some land. And I would, even before getting land, if you're renting, even if you just have a little balcony, do whatever you can do to start learning as much as you can about the growing arts and sciences, because it is art and it is science, both of those, growing things. And it's exciting, the idea of ultimately purchasing land and all. So and that may be a topic that I go over at some point in time. There are things, important elements to consider when choosing land. So thanks so much for your comment, Jan. I really appreciate it. Jill Madigan made a comment with respect to pruning fruit trees in the summer, a video I posted on June 30th, 2018, or thereabouts. What about the 1/3 rule I learned in the Master Gardener course? Does this mean that I can prune the poor assaulted apple trees' water sprouts if I catch them soon after they start lengthening? If I prune more than once a year, i.e. in the summer as well as the winter deep freeze, my friend's husband took the chainsaw to it in an effort to avert contact with the overhead utility wire. The water sprouts got more than even. So first, let me say congratulations. I think that's admirable to go ahead and pursue a Master Gardener course, and I think anyone can only benefit for taking on continuing education, whether it be webinars, going to the local nursery and taking courses, taking a permaculture course, whatever it may be. Learning as much as we can about food sovereignty and gardening, farming, those sorts of topics. So congratulations. I think that's wonderful, Jill. So before I learned about training trees, I did the pruning as many people have described on YouTube videos. So it's doing the dormancy pruning during the winter months, late fall, early spring, before the leaves bud out, and after the leaves have fallen in the fall. And one observation I've made is that whenever I prune during the dormancy period, the amount of vegetative growth is more vigorous than that I've observed during summer pruning. And whenever I get to a tree that I should have pruned, and for whatever reason I didn't get to it in time, and there's just too much, the air isn't flowing through, the sun isn't getting to the fruit, isn't getting to the other plants there, or there's crossing branches or dead limbs, whatever it may be, and I just go to town on it and I try to reshape the tree to the form that I want it to be. If I do that during the wintertime, I can anticipate I'm going to have a heck of a lot of vigorous growth, and they're all going to be water sprouts shooting up. Well, most of them will be. There'll be numerous water sprouts. And if I don't get to it right away because I'm doing many of the other things here on the site, I'll pay the price of having to do a heavy pruning, which can stress the tree quite a bit. But I've learned that it's more important for me to go ahead and do that extra heavy pruning during the non-dormant times, where I have less of a reciprocal, vigorous vegetative growth. So definitely take out the ones that you see as being problems. I think that it doesn't hurt to really knock it down. And the 1/3 rule is a reasonable rule, but if you've seen my videos, you see that I break that rule in an effort to get the shape of the tree where I want it. And if I stay on top of it and I do a few prunings during the summer months after having had a dormancy prune and the response being all that water sprouts, if I, let's say, twice in the following summer prune by, let's say, I take out as many of the vertical ones as possible, but if I can take some of the vertical ones that are in appropriate positions and I can train that vertical one to come off in a direction that I want it, awesome. Or if it's a vertical one that I can cut back to a node or a leaf that's there, and it's facing in the direction that I want that limb to go, I've just cut right above, prune just above that node. So it may only be, the water sprout may have only been 1 or 2 inches up, but I have next year's growth is going to come out in the direction that I want it to go. So I look at that as being advantageous. Now, if you live in a place like we have the deer browse, and they'll reach up and grab a hold of these. So the more of the limbs in the desirable locations, if you have lots of herbivores coming in and taking out, or there's the chance of people running through your yard and snapping a branch, or the landscaper doing damage to the tree, whatever it may be, then I would say leave a couple of extra limbs on there. But otherwise, I think that it's really wise to do the summer pruning as well, doing the shaping and planning where we're getting that next limb to come out in a direction that we want it to come. With apple trees, you really want to, if you really want that fruit off of that tree, you want to be careful with the spurs that are there, because that's going to produce the fruit unless it's a tip fruiter. And but that's a topic for another question, I guess. But I would say yes, I think it's wise to do summer pruning as well. There's still lots of folks suggesting, lots of different rules. In other words, actually coating your pruning spots with various different materials. I don't know that that's beneficial. And just doing winter pruning, I don't know that that's beneficial either. These are the ways that I'm doing it, and one of the things you can rest assured is I screw up, I'm going to share it on these YouTube videos. So thanks again, Jill, for your comment and question. I really appreciate it. Let's see if we can do another one. Hound Life, ask me anything, wood chips in the chicken coop. How do you feel about using wood chips from a county compost system? Great question. It's supposed to be organic, but I'm never sure who is throwing what types of shrubs, grasses, etc. We stopped using man-made chemicals on our lawn 5 or 6 years ago. We have plenty of green, but not enough browns, especially during the summertime for composting. I'm imagining it's for doing composting. So thanks for your comment and question, Hound Life. Municipalities or the county system that you work with, I don't know what other people's experiences have been, but as Thea and I, my wife and I's philosophies are we're always trying to reduce the amount of contaminants that are coming into contact with our lives, whether they're waterborne, airborne, or in the foods we eat. There's no doubt in my mind that the amount of glyphosate, Roundup that I have in my body is a significant amount, and other chemicals from my life's work and all. So as I became more and more aware of these contaminants, we've really wanted to reduce it. And even, we make our own soaps, we use our own cleaning detergents, our own deodorants. I use a different type of toothpaste than most people would use. So our whole lifestyle has changed as a result, not of paranoia, but, consciously taking responsibility for our exposure to things that potentially can cause us harm. And so that's the sort of not neurotic, but anal retentive person that I am, and my wife is as well, about this topic. So our municipality around here, there's a landfill nearby where now we live in the Great Lakes of New York State, so we're just a short distance from Lake Ontario, and we're a short distance from the Oswego River just runs right, a mile and a half down around the road. There's a pretty significant fishing industry in this area. There's been lots of water pollutants, heavy metals as well, including mercury. And the compost that was being made, which was made a lot from wood chips as well, and other materials, as you've mentioned. And so some of the fish material that came from some of the fishing, I'll just say fishing industries, which had a tremendous amount of mercury, cadmium, and potentially other materials as well, that it was never really publicized that these things were in there. And the workers were doing what they thought was really a wonderful thing, is taking these materials that were from the environment, breaking it down and putting it into a resource that community members could come in and take for free, and even load up, like my dump trailer when I was getting the wood chips. But I would take my dump trailer, go to this location, and get the wood chips. And I could see in the bucket, well, there would be still some remnants from the area where the composting was done, where the fish material was as well, and I knew about the heavy metals. And so I stopped using that resource. There are many free resources that I no longer use. Now, with respect to, like, the wood chips that I get now, either come from tree services that are doing routine maintenance work for the utility companies, going along the roads, trimming the trees and the brush and all, or from two different tree services. And they may grind out a stump, and somebody may have been using Roundup around the stump that's there, so that material get dropped here, and that goes off to the side in a special place. So if it's stump grindings, I have that go to the borderlines, places that it isn't going to be used that isn't going to be feeding food resources for us. So they're going to be feeding nitrogen fixers and other plants as well. So that's how anal retentive I am. People have mentioned before, when I talked about doing the composting and having trouble with one of my compost piles heating up, people have mentioned, why don't you get some grass clippings and all. And we mow quite a bit of our property here, but like I haven't mowed in a couple of weeks because we have the drought, and because I want the clover seeds and the bird's foot trefoil to go. And I know I'm going off to the side here, but I don't want to bring in other people's lawn clippings, because so many people that have lawn services come also have their property sprayed. And another interesting fact is that Roundup, which is the Monsanto's product that has glyphosate as well as other harmful ingredients as well, the American consumers use much more of it than the agricultural system uses. So it's stored, if you can go to your Lowe's, your Home Depot, your, I don't know, Target, whatever it may be, you're going to find Roundup in all these locations. And it may be applied in much higher concentrations as well. So with good reason, I think there's to use caution. So, the things I would do is find out how knowledgeable the people are that you're dealing with, the guy who's loading you and loading your managing the pile there, and what materials are actually coming in. Really getting to know people is the best way of approaching trying to reduce the amount of stuff that's coming on site. With respect to wood chips, that's gradually going to break down over time, and if you inoculate it with good forest inoculum, they may very well break that down and not have to have the ramifications of the harmful agents, other than the elements. We can only break things down to the periodic table of elements. So the heavy metals, for example, are still going to be persistent in those locations, in those resources, in the products of those resources after they've been broken down. So I can't really offer a lot of help with this, other than to say be persistent. I'd say your health and well-being and your longevity is very dependent on those things that you're exposing yourself to, and taking responsibility for it. But it's the way that I've contacted the tree services. They were doing some work right down the road, or I went to the town, our local town here, where the tree services that were working for the utility company were all dumping it in that location, and the only thing that the town heavy equipment operator was doing was basically turning those chips every once in a while. So other things weren't being added into it, other than the guys working the road there. There might be their Dunkin' Donuts papers and plastics and their water bottles, those sorts of things in there, but not too many other things that I couldn't pull out of the system. So I hope this was somewhat helpful. Hound Life, I appreciate the comment and question. Anyone else that has suggestions, please leave them in the description below, in the comments section. I'd really appreciate it. Tim from Tim's Homestead responded to Ask Me Anything, care of blueberry bushes, one of the videos I had posted recently. Hi Kevin, do you ever have trouble with mice, voles, or rabbits crawling under the netting? Great question. Any small mammal that wants to get underneath that netting certainly can. Now, moles, voles, and mice often get under the weed mats, and that's what's great about having the cats around here, is they will hunt those buggers down. And if they see them moving underneath the weed mat, underneath the blueberry bushes, well, the cats will just push up on the netting and go under and wait patiently for the little rodent to show its face, and usually get them. So yes, the main thing that I see the bird netting being most beneficial for is keeping the blueberries, and this has really worked out so far. Thea's been harvesting lots of blueberries, and as I mentioned in that video, we seldom get blueberries out of those blueberry bushes, because darn if those birds didn't beat us to it. And our favorite mulberry tree, the birds beat us to that one as well. But that was a tree that split into 3 parts last year, and so I had to cut off 2 parts and did all the patching of it. And so I've got to do some pruning on that one come fall. But I need to I guess my thought is I'm just going to share with the birds. They're there continuously. Right now the birds are just going into the blueberry ones. They take a lot of our cherries as well. Would it be ideal if I use all dwarf cultivars, of these, and we're able to put up bird netting over them? Yeah, that would be fantastic if we had the ability to do that. But we don't. And I'll create another video talking about what works well with some of the bird netting as well. So thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate it. Tim's always contributing on the channel. Maybe there's time for 1 or 2 more. and Muscadine and Moore had commented on that same video that Tim had, and she asked, but what about the birds eating all the blueberries from your tall blueberry bushes? Yes, we have lots of very tall blueberry bushes around here, and the birds eat them, and that's where we try to share with the wildlife around here. Now, we all summer long and winter long, all 365 days a year, we're feeding the birds at the bird feeders, and that means buying suet by the cases, buying bird seed, tremendous amounts. And when we're designing this, as I redesign it throughout the process, I'm always thinking about creating more opportunity for the resources that the wildlife enjoy, and having those planted around the food forest, around our vegetable gardens and all, so we distract them from coming to the ones that we want, and that it's much easier for them to go to the high, tall, high bush blueberry plants that are native to this area, which are smaller. They are fantastic, but it takes maybe 3 times as much time to get the same weight of volume of blueberries from those as it does the more common cultivars which we're planting for us to harvest as well. Do I wish I could cross one of the big blueberry bushes with really deep, almost black blueberries, which taste great, but they're just such small blueberries? I wish I could, but it's going to have to happen naturally around here for that to actually happen. But I'm committed to actually going into the areas that are old marginal zones and pulling out a lot of those blueberry bushes and grabbing some of the ones in some of the areas where you've seen me taking down trees recently, and bringing those out into fence line areas where I'll have a mixture of a couple of different trees, so lots of black locust trees, having some of the native high bush blueberry bushes, and having nest boxes set up over in those areas so that we can have the berry consuming birds over in those locations, and it provides habitats for many of the other pollinators and insectivores that will benefit all of the other processes going on on the property. So thanks again, Muscadine and Moore. I do appreciate your contributions to the community. And I think that's as far as I'm going to go today, because I already answered a question about bumblebee. I just posted a video about that in the last day or so. So I'm going to try and do this again soon, where I get to more of the comments and questions that I've been tardy on. But I do appreciate your contributions to the channel. This community is my way of sharing information, and I'm in the process of learning, and I think I can learn from you as well. And so I appreciate your contributions to to this YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.